Hello, welcome back. This is the Realtor Coach talking to everybody today about business planning and strategizing for 2015. This is sort of the end of January. Now we're approaching it, a few days left of the month. By this point in time of the month, you should have your goal finalized. You should have a great understanding of where you want to be and where you want to go for 2015. And today we're going to be talking about strategizing and business planning from a point of view of where you're actually are in your current business and where you want to go. There's five main phases in all real estate sales transaction businesses and teams, individuals. Some people transition from phase one through five very, very fast. We're going to show you an outlook on how to get from essentially zero, brand new in the business, to well over millions of dollars in the next 5 years. So we're going to have five phases based over 5 years. But we've coached a lot of people who fast track that much faster than that. They can do it in literally 2 years. They can get to the levels where you want to be. So today we're going to be talking about strategizing, business planning, where you need to be, what you need to look for. One of my mentors talks about greatness, and he says most people don't know what greatness looks like, what it feels like, how emotionally you should be charged within your greatness, and how to model after other people who are great in your field of work or in your line of work. And the challenge with that, especially when it comes to real estate, is most realtors don't know how to be successful, what success looks like when it comes to selling real estate. So today we're going to be journeying through five different phases. But before we get to that, we want to make sure that you understand what a business plan is. A lot of people get caught up on what a business plan should be. So if you look at sort of the traditional capital industry out there, when it comes to business planning, they have these huge portfolios of what a business plan is. They have financial modeling, outlooks, scalability. They have obviously budgeting and marketing, and they got everything you can imagine about a business for these huge industrial and sort of financial world capitalist businesses out there. You typically need an MBA to understand what the heck they talk about and even how to use it. That's not what you need for when it comes to real estate sales. You won't get to the scale. Well, you could get to the scale, but you wouldn't need that in your first probably 4 phases of business. So it's not even a simplified version either, but a very complex version. When it comes to real estate, it's very easy to be successful. I talk to a lot of people where I tell them that it's, the top producers in the industry are not always necessarily the brightest people or the smartest people. They're not necessarily great business minds, but when it comes down to simplicity, they've really simplified their business down into a few key areas, namely lead generation and marketing. So for me, you have to keep it, there's an acronym called KISS, keep it simple, stupid, which is not a great way of saying things, but it's a great way to remember it. If it isn't broken, don't fix it. And what a business plan should be and should look like, especially in real estate, is very, very simple. So how you work, you have an idea, you test that idea. If it works and makes you money, great, keep doing it, okay? But if it doesn't work, then you got to rethink the idea. Go through your marketing, go through your telemarketing. We're going to go through your Parthenon right now. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the topic today. But what you need to understand is in real estate, the simpler you get it, the better it is. Okay. So are you going to be working with buyers or just sellers or a combination of both? Are you going to have a team? What's that team structure going to look like? And then you just have to keep going back and you keep improving and improving and improving. And over time, your business plan will get more complicated. But initially, just keep it as simple as you possibly can. If you're brand new in the business and you want to work with buyers, just stick with buyers, but really hone in on how to make that experience amazing. If you're in phase 1 or 2 and you want to expand and you want to work with just sellers, which is really the key to growth in real estate, is being a listing agent, then you really need a strategy in place for that. But you got to make it simple. So before you plan anything in life, you got to understand where you are today. So it's great that you're set a goal, and it's part of the sort of strategy we've been doing for January 2015 so far. For the first 3 weeks of the year, we've talked about persistence, right? So everybody should have been reading their persistence chapter in Think and Grow Rich so far, which we've done. I'm now on day 29, so I've read it 29 times. And I still keep learning things every single day. Every single day I learn it. I have a new thought, a new idea. Something else comes into my consciousness when you read it. So you should be doing that. If you haven't have your goals set and finalized yet, that's okay. Still have some time, but really make sure you get that honed in on where you want to go for the next year, because February is right around the corner, and you want to make sure you hit the ground running. Now, when it comes to business planning, in order to get to those goals, you have to really understand who you are today. Because there's no point in saying, yeah, I just want to be $1 million producer, but I have, I don't know what my skills are. I don't know what my strengths and weaknesses are. I don't know sort of what role I play in my business. If you don't know those answers, then you're going to really have to sit down and figure out how to really strategize going forward. Because if you don't have that in place, then you won't be able to attain any goal that you want. So before you create any plan, you need to know where you are in your current business. Are you new at it in the business? Are you experienced? Do you have trouble growing? Do you need guidance? In what area do you need guidance in? Is it marketing? Is it sales? Is it closability? Is it likability? Is it client follow-up? You need to understand what you need help with. But before you grow, you must know. There's no point of going forward in any. This is why most agents in this business get the same results over and over and over again. Every year they start the new year with this sort of aha moment saying, yes, this is the year I'm going to double my business or triple my business. But they fail to understand where they are today and who they are today, what brought them to where they are in their business in 2015. So the challenge with that is you got to really understand who you are, what you have, what you bring to the table. So before you grow, you must know. So the 5 phases of realtors' businesses. Organically speaking, you will grow through these phases, probably to phase 2, maybe even phase 3, without much input. If you're a driven person, you're really just looking to grow your business from start to sort of like, let's say you want to grow from $0 to $1 million in commissions. You can grow this almost organically without too much input. But the true drivers are really coaching, and they really are input from outside people in the industry to really help you along the way. For some people, you can get there very fast, right? For us today, we're going to be talking about this 5-year plan. So each phase represents 1 year of your business. So if you're brand new in the business, we're going to start with phase 1 this year, and then obviously next year we phase 2, et cetera, until phase 5. But by 5 years, phase 5, you should be earning $2.5 million according to this plan. But you're going to have a team of 14 people as well. So if you're new at this and this seems a little daunting and overwhelming, stick with it. But we're going to start very small with phase 1, okay? So this is really the transition that we were going to be talking about today. This is where we're going to be going from phase 1 to phase 5. And the problem with most agents, I mentioned it earlier about greatness, okay? No one really knows what top producers do because, one, they're too busy, or they're just not available, they don't coach, they're running their own teams, so they don't have time to really show other people. And from an outsider's perspective looking in, you can probably see the surface of what they do in terms of their marketing, in terms of maybe some of their strategies they use. But really, to get an inside look at it, you have to be part of that team, or you have to really know that person from a business standpoint. I've had the privilege of knowing many top producers in my time and coaching top producers. And what we've done is we've sort of finalized a lot of different ways and phases and how we can actually pinpoint down what each realtor does based on what they're doing in their business, and how we can translate that into a different phase or different stage in their business. So today we're going to start with phase 1. We're actually going to do all of them, but we're going to start with phase 1, stage 1. This is typically year 0 or year 1, however you want to look at it. This is what we call the quicksand year, right? So it feels like no matter what you do, you just keep sinking and sinking and sinking, and the world seems overwhelming, and there's just too much going on. You can't seem to catch up, and the top producer just flying by you, and you don't understand what's going on. One of the quick things you're going to have to do is develop your skills, your differentiating of value. What is your USP, your unique selling proposition to your clients? Unless you have that honed in, and your saleability, your closability, your marketing, until you really tweak that, you won't be able to get into phase 2. So where you are today, you have to recognize where you are so that you can plan on how you're going to grow throughout the course of the year. So phase 2, it's the roller coaster, right? You've passed phase 1 in terms of building your skill set. So you have a better ability to close people, speak to people, you understand marketing, but you still have this very inconsistent cash flow. Okay, so you don't know where the next deal is going to come. You're sort of on the roller coaster ride, up and downs of the market. You're a victim of the market. You're not creating your own economy. And the really only trigger past this is leverage. And leveraging is really leveraging your time, your ability, your skill set. You got to leverage all that to somebody else. If not somebody else, then you have to do it within. So you have to grow yourself to a point where you're a better marketer, strategist, business planner, business developer. And when you get to a point where you're doing more consistent cash flow, you grow into something what we call phase 3 or stage 3, which is really, it initially begins with the white water. So you're not really on this high roller coaster ride with the high highs and low lows. It's still a little bit bumpy, but it's less highs and lower lows. And how you do that is you basically build a power parthenon, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the session. Essentially, a power parthenon is just multiple sources of revenue in your business and multiple areas of expertise you will have to master in order to build your business to where you want it to be, where it's more consistent. You understand revenue models a little bit better. You understand financial modeling. The business is coming to you. You're attracting it. So your phone's ringing off the hook. You're not after chasing people, hunting them down from an open house. That's not happening. And then you get to a point where you get into stage 4, which is it's a predictability phase, but you're in this whirlwind. It's so chaotic that if you don't stay on top of the ball, if you're not really focused in the business, it'll get away from you very, very fast. You'll overspend money that you shouldn't be spending because you're not keeping track of things. And there's so many irons in the fire that you really have to stay on top of the ball. So the only way to get past stage 4 is to build systems and metrics. So once you build systems in place, then you have to manage the people to manage those systems. That's really the key trigger to growth when it comes to big top producers and big team building. And obviously, you want to get to stage 5, which is the ultimate pinnacle of the business. So stage 5 is, it can be a tar pit. Well, what we mean by that is as soon as you go in it, that's it. You're done. The only way out of it is through leadership and business modeling. And how we do that is through, again, it's more development of systems, but it's really about growth of the team. So you have the predictable income coming in, but you really have to fine tune that income. So how much are you netting? What's the business plan like? What's the marketing budget? Who are you going to market? Who are you going to target? What areas you're going to get more market share in? There comes more, it's more of a business, an actual business, than just going out and trying to sell a piece of real estate. You'll transition from a commission salesperson to really a salaried person. So you're a salaried manager, you're the salary CEO of your team. But you get a business that, one, is sellable, it's scalable. You can grow it to any size you want. It's really up to you and your choice at that point in time. So to get into a little bit more detail into each one and how to recognize each phase, we're going to talk here about each one. So phase 1 here is called what we call the solo realtor. Okay, you're the realtor, you're the secretary, you book appointments, you're the administrator, you deal with the paperwork, you are also the marketing guru. You have to go and get it printed and delivered and distributed. And then we also say cook and bottle washer, but you do it all. Okay, there's nothing that you have no input from anybody else. There's no assistance, there's no help. The brokerage really isn't there to help you build your business. They're there for business support, but they're not there for your individual business. And you've taken it all on your entire plate. The problem with that is you're going to run out of time. You're typically working more hours than anybody else in the business, just like myself was. When I was in phase 1, I was working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, it seemed like at times. My phone was always on, but it wasn't ringing as much as I'd like it to be. I was making a lot of the phone calls. I was chasing people. The money that was coming in wasn't much. The problem with that was I didn't have a plan in place. I didn't have strategy. I didn't have an understanding of the business, how the business works. I didn't have an understanding of marketing, how marketing works, what sort of the conversion rate. I wasn't measuring anything. So a lot of this happens to most agents out there, a large, vast majority of the realtors in the business, unfortunately. One reason being is because they don't really truly know what greatness looks like. They don't really know what a sales team looks like. They don't really know what top producers do day in, day out. Surprisingly enough, most top producers don't work as hard as the phase 1 realtors. That's just because they know how to run a business properly. They have a typical sort of Monday to Friday schedule, 9 to 5 type schedule. Their team members may be working around the clock, but they're not. And that's the difference between phase 1 and the sort of phase 4, phase 5 realtor. So what to typically look out for phase 1 if you're in phase 1. So you're typically between sort of that 20 to 40 transactions per year. It's very inconsistent. You don't know if you're going to do one transaction this month and 4 or 5 next month. You're not building enough sales in your pipeline to really measure it, so you have no idea what your financial modeling will look like going forward. Your typical GCI, or gross commission income, is anywhere from 60,000 to 140,000, depending on the marketplace you're in. Obviously, if you're in a higher price point of homes. So if you're selling, like multi-million dollar homes, obviously you have to sell less homes to make that kind of money. But you're typically not selling much because you don't quite know the business. You don't understand your skill set. You don't know where you are today. For growth, you obviously have no team. It's just you. It's you incorporated. Like I said, you do absolutely everything in the business. You load your own listings, you do your own marketing, you do your own open houses, you put the open house signs up and take them down. You do absolutely everything. The problem with that is there's not enough time in the day to grow a successful real estate business. So in order to grow past phase one into phase two, you're really going to have to grow leverage. The challenges with phase one are obviously money consistency, your mindset, right? You may not have an abundance mindset. You probably have a negative mindset. You really have to work on that. So that's a big component of phase one growth, is sort of working on yourself as the individual, working on your subconscious mind, your thought process, your thinking through, your strategizing, your business planning. That's really what we focus on a lot in phase one. Want a roadmap? You don't have one. That's the biggest challenge. So any road will get you to where you want to go because you don't know where you're going. You typically chase things that you shouldn't be chasing. So the next biggest and brightest event, or the next biggest and brightest tool or widget or gadget that's going to get you the next sale. You're always chasing those because you don't understand really what works and what you need to have in your business. You don't have a strategy, and your skill set is lacking. So you have to really focus in on understanding paperwork. You have to understand a negotiation. You got to understand marketing, your likability with your clients, how you treat clients, how you're following up with clients. All that skill set needs to be developed. It can be developed within a year. You have to be very focused on it. You have to have a plan in place and a strategy to follow that. So in order to understand that you're in phase one, right, there is such thing as you're not being in phase one, you're pre-phase one. You've made it into phase one when you can articulate your USP, or your unique selling proposition, okay? So you're in this phase, sort of pushing into phase two, when you have started winning listings more consistently. There's buyers who are contacting you instead of you contacting them. You're getting more referrals. Your likability goes up, your mindset's changing. Money is still not predictable, but it's coming in more frequently. You probably have a very light business plan, a strategy in place. So that's how you know you're sort of into phase one, entering into phase two. That's the key indicators of it. So if you're a brand new agent, or if you're in phase one, you've sort of been stuck into phase one. One of the best books that I've read to sort of help the solo realtor, solo business owner for that matter, anybody owning their own business, on how to break free of running your own shop and then making it into an actual business is The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. He talks about the story of the bakers. And if you've ever known a baker, if you've known anybody to run a bakery shop, it's a very time-consuming business. Baking takes time. People want things. If you want fresh bread at 9 in the morning, the bakers are there at 4 or 5 in the morning getting everything ready to go for the day. And then once the shop closes down at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, or when the bread runs out, then they got to clean up. They got to do their accounting. They got to do the marketing. They got to they got to strategize for the next day. And so what happens is they give the story throughout the book because they're basically open round the clock because they're nonstop. There's no one there else to help them. And what happens is their business suffers, right? Because the next day they're too tired. They don't bake enough bread. The marketing, nobody just, eventually gets to the point where no one shows up to buy the bread and the muffins and all that stuff. So eventually they go out of business because that's the way business is designed, because you can't do it all on your own. And real estate's no different. So if you're in phase one, you're stuck in phase one, or you're pre-phase one, where you haven't even got to 20 transactions in a year, you really need to focus on building yourself and building your skill set and getting into phase two, which is more leveraging. So phase two is the leveraged realtor. Okay, so you have some help. You may not have a team totally evolved into a consistent team building approach. And what I mean by that is if it's not scalable, if it's not uh, repeatable, if you can't just walk away and they know what they're doing, then you don't have a great team in place yet, but they can be developed. What we need to do is we need to focus on growth, leverage into phase two in order to get to phase three. So for phase two, your second year in the business, okay, you need to focus on consistency and cash flow. And the only way to do that is through leveraging. So you can leverage yourself with other team members, so either a buyer's agent, a showings agent, a listing agent. You can do it with unlicensed assistants or licensed assistants. The best, usually the first step is growth of getting one assistant to take on all the things that are not sales specifically related. So no negotiating, no paperwork. They can probably do listing loading. They'll do all the marketing, they'll do all the follow-up, they'll do all the appointment bookings. They'll take more off your plate than you should be doing anyways. And that's really how you know you're into phase two. So typical phase two markers, okay, are going to be transaction going to be like, it's going to raise, of course, from 40 to 80 per year. Your gross commission income is going to rise from 140,000 to 300,000 a year. That's sort of, again, it depends on your marketplace. It depends on the price of the home or the condominiums that you're selling. And the challenges with this is, again, you're still sort of in this roller coaster of real estate, right? There's not consistent revenue. Time management is still a problem for you. You're probably still doing the open houses. You're doing less paperwork, but you're still, working, probably 60 plus hours in the business. The challenge of leveraging is very challenging if you don't have the time to commit to hiring the right people. It's very difficult to control hiring just anybody off the street. So you have to be very difficult. You have to be very diligent when you're hiring people. And probably the biggest problem of phase two growth and consistency is lead generation. So when you look at the top producers in phase 3, 4, and 5, they're very good at lead generation. The distinction between which phase they're in is the convertibility of those leads and the sort of size of their teams. And that's basically the only differentiator between the later stages of real estate. But phase 1 and 2, they have a difficult time with lead generation. Phase 1, they typically don't do marketing, so they're not doing any lead generation whatsoever. Phase 2 is they have money to do the lead generation, but they're not doing it in a very consistent or strategized way. Okay, and they're not going down the right avenues for the right leads. So if you're in phase 2 and you're sort of transitioning past phase 2 into phase 3, you've made it in when you're consistently 68 homes per month, and your profitability is improving and your net income is increasing. So what we mean by that is you could be spending all your gross commission income on marketing and advertising, sort of payroll and all that stuff. And through phase 1 through phase 2, as long as that gap increases, so your net profitability is growing, then you're growing into a better transition state of the real estate business. So I used to coach a guy from Home Life. He was a million plus producer from Home Life. I coached him for 2 years. The first year I came to me, he was earning just over $1 million a year in gross commission income, but he was spending about $1.2 million. So he was in the hole over $100,000 a year when it came to his business. And he's been in the business for 30 plus years. So he understands the business. But what he was not understanding was he wasn't planning very, very well. So he wasn't strategizing. He wasn't making it measurable. He wasn't tracking where the dollars were going, what the dollars were coming back in from his marketing. His team was lacking, to say the least. He was not a person of sort of management material, but he could have hired a manager to manage the other people in his team. The team members were coming and going all the time, hiring and firing. There was no consistency. There's no systems in place. So by the end of year 2, he was earning slightly under $1 million, just over $900,000. But he was net commissioning almost over $400,000. So his cost of running the business was around $500,000, and then he was profiting the rest. So he went from a negative to he had like a $500,000 swing essentially in 2 years. And that we just tweaked a few little things, some minor things, put some systems in place, put an extra team member in place to manage the other team members, basically a team lead. And that's how we transitioned him into sort of a higher producer. He was then into phase 4 of what we called the 5 phases. So for phase three, as you move along from phase two, right, you got this roller coaster. Your consistency of revenue is not great, but as you move into phase three, it becomes much more consistent cash flow. You begin to attract a lot of people through past referrals, past clients. Your marketing is really on point and targeted and tested, so you understand, for every dollar you spend, you're getting, 5x back in the commissions, and that's really where you want to be in phase three. But as we also call it, the tipping point. A lot of realtors get to this point in their career and they really have to do a gut check, whether they want to really grow a big business past phase three, or sort of just stay at what they're at and just be, happy with earning anywhere from, like $300 to $1 million a year. The challenge with that is, to be on the low end of phase three, sort of that $300,000 mark, it doesn't take all that much to do. So that's why it's really sort of the gut check phase. Because to transition from phase three to phase four, you're really going to have to commit time, money, energy, effort, strategy. You really have to be involved with the business to really grow it, past the 7-figure mark. So that being said, in order to do that, though, you have to understand where you're at in the business. So what phase three looks like is you're earning between 80 to 160 transactions per year. It's very consistent. It's coming in constantly. Your team size has probably grown to 8 members. So you have probably buyers agents, sellers agents. You probably have 1 or 2 assistants. You may even have an administrator or accountant involved with the bookkeeping. But the challenges of phase three is hiring managed staff. That's going to come up frequently in phase 3, 4, and 5. Is always hiring. You want to hire quality people because you never want team members just for the sake of having team members. You want producing members. The other challenge with being not only the hiring is but also the management of them, the ongoing management. The other challenge is attracting business, not chasing business. To transition from phase 1 to 2 to 3, you really have to go away from pursuing people every day in, day out. You really want the business chasing you, phoning you, emailing you, doing whatever it takes to get your business because they understand the value added to them. And balance time management. Again, you're probably working slightly less, but you're still demanded significantly throughout the weekend, probably on weekends as well. But you're going to be more demanded because you're going to have more people to manage. You're going to have more questions to answer. But again, balance and time management really comes down to activity management and scheduling and how you all develop all that going forward in your business. So you've made it into phase 3 when your business has shifted to attract and not chase, with sellers calling you to list their homes, and you have at least 5 predictable revenue pillars in your business in place in what we call the Parthenon. So your Power Parthenon is essentially revenue streams in your business that are generating revenue, whether it's through direct marketing, an email program, whether it's telemarketing, whether it's referral-based business. Most agents, unfortunately, just do pick 1 or 2. Right? They have just a website or just a blog, or they have like just telemarketing. They do just cold calling, or they do just door knocking. They're very passive. They want business coming to them, but it rarely does because just the one revenue source tends to dry up very quickly. So it's what we call the diving board principle. Okay, so the risk with only using 1 or 2 ways to generate leads is that if they begin to diminish in returns, your business starts to fail. You start to go back to phase 1, the growth phase of the business. The difficulty with a diving board is if you're using just one strategy, 1, the revenue is not as much, okay? And 2, as the revenue does grow, that strategy actually can't keep up. And actually the diving board tends to teeter and actually comes back crashing down because you won't have enough people in place or systems in place to manage the leads that are being generated if that one thing does take off. So the internet was big. Well, it still is big. I guess I shouldn't say it was big, but it still is big and huge. But the problem is it's very saturated when it comes to the real estate world. To be sort of at the top ranking of Google and be sort of generating all your leads online is, I would say, a thing of the past. And the reason being is because there's still this sort of like in-phase, person-to-person contact still needed in the real estate business. Whilst most realtors nowadays get into the business and say, oh, look, I just want the cheapest thing on generating leads, and the leads that are coming in, they're generally not very good anyway. So you're wasting your time filtering through those leads. And the difficulty with that is you end up doing nothing throughout the year. Okay, so you sort of revert back to phase 1, phase 2. in order to be very consistent at phase 3, you have to build the Power Parthenon. What the Power Parthenon is, you have at minimum 5 revenue sources that are generating you business throughout the year and for your team and lead generation. So obviously you're going to have internet, you're going to have either an email campaign, a blog campaign, or you're going to have a website that has not only just consistency but growth. You don't want to just post a website just for the sake of posting a website. You have to have organic information in there and really grow that site if you're going to generate leads through the internet. Direct mail program. Direct mail is still one of the most powerful tools for realtors when it comes to marketing and brand recognition, name recognition. Is you need to have a consistent, not spasmodic direct mail program. It has to go out weekly. I know that sounds like a lot for a lot of people. It's still more expensive than the internet, but it's a fraction of the cost if you consider what you're actually getting back from it in terms of the commissions. Telemarketing, it's a lost art. Telemarketing for me is not cold calling. Okay, it's warm calling, meaning you're going to be calling people who are specific to what you're looking to help them to do. So, for example, you're either going to have a program in place, a system in place, someone on your team, or you yourself doing it, where you're doing follow-up leads with your clients, your existing clients and your past clients. You're going to be doing quarterly phone calls. You're going to be doing monthly phone calls. You're going to be buying lists or building lists or renting lists from people who are involved with, let's say, real estate investing. You could buy realtor investor lists. You can buy all sorts of things, but you need to focus in on, and if you're going to do telemarketing, it has to be focused in on who you're actually going to be targeting. And the messaging past there can't be a sales message, and it seems redundant. But there needs to be a call to action at the end of the call, but the call really needs to be all about value add and information to the client, whether it's a live phone call or just a message left for them. Okay. Salesforce is going to be your team. So your team members have to be generating you leads when you're not around. So if they're not, then they're not a great team member, obviously. And you have to be quick to fire and slow to hire. So what we mean by that is you have to really take your time and hire the right people. Otherwise, they're going to be time wasters, time consumers. They're going to be costing you money, energy, effort, possibly. They could be hurting your brand. You don't want this. You want to hire them slowly and fire them quickly. And referrals. Obviously, for me, referrals is the best way to generate any business in any business out there, not just real estate. It's the lowest cost and highest returning yield. The problem is most realtors don't know the first thing when it comes to referral-based business. It's more than just sending out a card. It's more than just sending out an item of value, a pin or a calendar once a year. That can't be a good referral system. We have 93 ways on how to generate better referrals for your system in place, and we'll send that out to all the realtors. But for now, you have to understand you need to have it as part of your Parthenon, your revenue model. So this is what we call the Power Parthenon. Okay, so those are the 5 basic ones. Obviously, you could build on this. You could have, you could sell to your clients items of value outside of sales, right? You could sell them home study kits on investing. You can start referral-based businesses with mortgage brokers and lenders and all sorts of people to generate another source of revenue for your business. Every dollar counts, obviously, when it comes to real estate, and you want to really think through, if you're into phase 3, of how you're going to transition into phase 4. And basically how you do that is building this Power Parthenon. Once it's built, though, the phase 4 people just grow each source of revenue. That's the transition shift. So for phase 4 is the true mark of the real estate professional really is predictability. It's you'll be earning money like a top producer. Sales are very predictable, they're reliable, and they're almost sellable. What I mean by that is almost sellable is you can almost sell your business, but it's not quite there yet because the systems are not structured in a way that they are in phase 5, and we're going to get into that. What you're doing in phase 4 is you're adding tremendous value to your clients. You're what we are known as the preeminent person in your industry. So people come to you for the right advice. They don't come to you just to put their house on the market. You're their trusted real estate advisor. That's a true phase 4 realtor. Okay. The challenge with phase 4, probably the biggest challenge, is it's almost like a whirlwind. Okay. There's so many things going on. There's so many irons in the fire. You're managing people. You have business planning meetings. You've got quarterly meetings. You've got financial meetings. You've got marketing meetings. You've got all sorts of things going on. So you're through a whirlwind, but you get to a point where you have 160 to 300 transactions per year. Your gross commissions are anywhere from $1 million to $2.5 million in the year. And the challenge with managing people and all these other things is you're basically managing chaos. Okay, you have to build and monitor systems, which is the only way to get into phase 5, and then you have to find balance. So you are working less and less in the business with the day-to-day clients. Your team members are taking on a brunt of the load with the clients in terms of showing and listings and appointment bookings and paperwork and accounting and all that. But you do need to still find balance because you are growing a business that's going to be running essentially 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But you need to be able to manage it in a consistent way, probably from like a Monday to Friday type thing. So for phase 5, to me, this is the pinnacle, right? So this is you've climbed the summit of Mount Everest. That you're at the top of the class, you've conquered the real estate world. You've created a sellable, predictable business that runs without your input. You don't have to be there day-to-day business, and your business runs without you. It runs smoothly. You don't risk market share. In fact, you're probably growing market share. This is a true pinnacle when it comes to real estate. The biggest problems with phase 5 is you're going to have business modeling, financial modeling. It's going to be you have to really honed in on that. Like you are going to probably hire someone to create a business plan for you for each year that goes by. You're going to have marketing meetings with big organizations, radio spots, TV ads. It's far past sort of just direct marketing and phoning your past clients, but all of that has to be in place. Challenge are also profitability, right? I gave you the example earlier about, you're going to spend $1 million to earn $1 million. There's no point doing that. The challenge with profitability is you're going to have a lot of marketing money tied up, and there's no guarantee you're going to get it back. So accounting becomes one of the biggest challenges in phase 5. And then probably the most challenging thing is leadership management. You have to become the leader. You're probably going to have 12 people on your team, if not more. Okay, maybe 14, 15, or 16 on your team for sort of good sized team. It's probably all you need to produce the kind of money you're going to want. Anything over $2.5 million of gross commission income. But in order to do that, you have to be a great leader. And in order to be a great leader, you got to work on yourself and your skill set and your sort of your management style, how you lead the team. Are you there daily? Are you there remotely? Are you there once a week, once a month? Like you really have to hone in on what you want that phase 5 to look like. If you want to just not work there all the time, you can hire a team lead to run the team, but they've got to be the same thing. They have to be great leaders and great managers. So how you've known you've made it to phase 5 is you understand your financial model and you build a highly profitable sort of debt-free business that generates profits for you without your involvement day to day. You're probably most likely paid a salary. You're no longer a commissioned salesperson. So you're probably getting paid a salary from either the business entity, the team entity, whatever it is. So it's an ongoing management fee. And really the only concern you have is the growth of market share is your only concern. You're not concerned about the revenue coming in. That's almost a guarantee at this point. The challenge you have is how do you grow the business? How do you take more market share away from the competitors? How do you differentiate yourself from your competitors? How do you become sort of the absolute preeminent person in your marketplace? And for me, that is the ultimate business plan, design, model, whatever you want to call it. The issue with that is most agents that get stuck on that phase 3. And like I said, it's a gut check time in phase 3, whether you want this or not. Do you want phase 5? Do you want to be running a big team and organization earning, millions of dollars in a year? Or are you happy with earning, $300,000, $500,000 in a year, maybe even $1 million if you're lucky? You got some systems in place, but you're not really committed to it, but you're still consuming a lot of your time. You really have to figure out what you want. And phase 3, like I said, is that tipping point. So growth past phase 3 is what you're going to grow into. It's really team management. But if you're happy with not running a team and you just want a couple people to help you out, grow your own personal business, then stick with phase 3. But if you want phase 3 to really be repeatable and something that you can bank on going forward, is you have to look at what phase 4 and phase 5 do very, very well, which is really systems and management. So as a recap. So if you look through this chart here, it's a 5-year outlook. And the challenge is you're going to have challenges along the way. Phase 1, you're going to feel like you're in quicksand no matter what you do. The more you struggle, the more you get buried. And the only way to sort of overcome that is to work on yourself, your skills, your personal USP, right? What's your unique selling proposition? And as you enter into phase 2,
the roller coaster becomes much bumpier, right? The highs are highs and lows are really low. And the only way to do sort of anything past that is through leveraging. So you're gonna hire people, you're gonna have more consistent cash flow, and then you're gonna enter into phase three. And once you enter into phase three, your highs are, they'll probably still be high, but they won't be as high peaked as phase two, and the lows are going to be significantly low. So you're still going to have some bumps, but it's going to be like whitewater rafting essentially. It's just going to be nice and smooth and flowing with some ups and downs. And the only way to grow past that into phase four is if you grow that power parthon. You have to generate different revenue sources. You have to attract business to yourself, not chase business. But as you get into that, as you build past this power parthon and build your team, your big base of revenue, is you're going to have this whirlwind of problems in your management, but you're going to have predictability. So sometimes it outweighs the chaos. And the only way to push past that and to maintain into phase five is to build systems and have metrics in place. And then as you're in phase five, you're going to have a scalable business, but you need really key leaders in those positions to really grow your business. So you know where you are now. Now what? So you're going to plan, you're going to strategize, you're going to take advantage of our coaching. So without proper guidance, you'll be stuck in whatever phase you're currently in. And without a plan to get out, you'll have the same fate. So year in, year out, no matter what you do, you're going to get the same results year after year after year if you don't do something to really propel yourself into the next phase. Next steps for 2015. So we spent 3 weeks really talking about planning, goal setting, strategizing, persistence. What are you doing for the year of 2015? By now, you really should have a clear understanding of where you want to go by the end of the year. But you really need to focus on where you're at today, right? So you're brand new. Are you in phase one, phase two, phase three? Do you want to transition into phase, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, whatever you want to do? You really have to figure that out. So you're going to make a business strategy and plan for growth. But part of that is going to start with where you are today. So measure and reevaluate your plan every quarter, every 3 months. At the end of every 3 months, you're going to sit down. You're going to measure what you did, what you spent, how much money that money brought you back into your business, where your revenue is going, where your expense are. Can you tweak things? Can you do different host beneficiary marketing techniques where you're not necessarily paying for your marketing, but you're having it hosted with a different company that they're paying for the marketing, but you're getting part of the revenue from it. So we'll talk into that into next month when we get into more marketing. But you really need to measure and track everything that's going on. But most of all, you have to have fun and make sure that 2015 is your best year ever. It's the only way anything's going to happen. If you're not having fun, it's not going to be worth your time anyways. So I wish everybody luck in 2015 and good planning, happy hunting, and happy selling. Take care.